So is screwing over somebody's business a reason to kill them? I think we all know how insane the Joe versus Carol case was. When it came out, it was huge, and it released a whole subculture of things that we did not even know about. And just how competitive and strange the exotic animal industry in America is like. And it was really popular whenever I was younger for people to hire Joe for their birthday parties. Like, I kind of knew Joe as the person that did my friends' birthday parties and was like the magic man. But Peacock is now releasing a show called Joe versus Carol, so I figured we would actually talk more about the case. So Joseph Allen Maldonado Passage was born March 5th of 1963. He was born in Kansas and then later moved to Texas for high school. And I've really wondered what happened in his early life for him to become the man he is today, now in his 50s. The best way I think that I can describe Joe's personality is he's almost like a vlogger, a YouTube vlogger before that was even a thing. So he was born in Kansas and then moved to Texas to complete high school. And right after graduation, he served as the chief of police in Eastvale. And he ended up leaving law enforcement after he was in a pretty big accident. While he has made previous claims that going off of a bridge was self-inflicted, it's also been stated that it was during a drug investigation, so I don't know. But either way, he was left in a coma for 9 days and had several broken bones. But because of how severe the injuries were, he just was not the same after this. He moved to West Palm Beach and opened up a pet store. And a friend of his who owned a drive-through safari ended up bringing baby lions to him. And seeing his friend work with these animals was kind of his inspiration. So he moved to Arlington and opened up another pet shop with his brother, who also shared his love of exotic animals. But he ended up becoming a target for Arlington officials. He would fly an American flag with rainbow stripes above his building because he was openly gay. And horribly, he was subject to a lot of discrimination during this time. And in 1997, his brother Gerald Wayne passed away in an auto accident. And this absolutely destroyed Joe. So he ended up selling his pet shop and then acquiring 16 acres of land in Oklahoma with his parents. And he opened up the Gerald Wayne Exotic Memorial Park, dedicated to his brother. But this is just where the story begins. Okay guys, so things are about to get a little crazy. So in the 2000s, Joe ended up acquiring his first 2 tigers, which had been abandoned. And he stated that the first animal rescue in his career was actually an alligator with an eye infection. And a weird fun fact during this is he actually called up Steve Irwin during this time to help get the proper antibiotic for his alligator. And it seemed like at the very beginning of his career, his goal was to be kind of like Steve Irwin. He really wanted to be able to educate people on exotic animals. Well, one day in Texas, law enforcement found a group of neglected emus. So Joe ended up volunteering to take these emus back to his animal park. But he ended up having a hard time capturing and controlling these birds, so he wound up just killing them. He was obviously accused of animal cruelty by the police, but since they were considered livestock, that can be legally humanely killed in Texas. So Joe was not indicted. Well, Joe became obsessed with breeding tigers. Tiger cubs ended up being the most profitable because you could essentially get people to pay a lot of money to come hold a tiger, interact with a tiger. He was also breeding animals like ligers as well. But it is like $10,000 per tiger each year to feed them. And all these cubs grow up to be adults, so what are you going to do losing all that money? Well, Joe claims that he could do it for $3,000 a year. And what he meant by this was he was feeding all of his big cats expired meat from Walmart, which he also ate too. The whole thing was kind of gross. And in 2006, they got cited multiple times by the USDA. He was falsifying wildlife records and was also killing animals, which is in violation of the Endangered Species Act. Also during this time, this man is documenting absolutely everything. While Joe's building up popularity and money, he's taking these cubs on tour. He also gets a singing career somewhere in this, which, by the way, is not him singing. He conned artists saying that he was making music for his reality show and they would be singing in it. And later on, he just made his own music videos to it. So all of this madness got the attention of Miss Carol Baskin. And man, is this when things get real messy. Okay, so let's get into Joe and Carol's feud. So whenever she heard all of this going on, she was like, absolutely not. She has a big cat sanctuary, and she's this wildlife advocate even though she prior owned a zoo like Joe's. So even though she used to do stuff like this, she was like, this is unethical, stop. And she already had like a pretty big online community. So she was trying to send her fan base, I don't really know what they're called, basically over to shut Joe down. So the audience plus her team at Big Cat Rescue would essentially email bomb any place Joe was hired at. They would cancel his shows, and this really affected his revenue. He set up his YouTube channel to basically talk bad about her, and she would kind of do the same thing online. And because she had done something similar to him, he essentially saw her as a hypocrite. But Joe took it too far on many occasions. One time videoing and uploading a video of him killing her in blow-up doll form, and he ended up actually going over via helicopter to survey her sanctuary. Apparently she had around 200 tigers, but for some reason all they could find were 12. So he posed the question, where are the other tigers at if she doesn't believe in cages? He also ended up obtaining her diary, which was stolen off of her computer by a former employee. Carol's husband, Don Lewis, ended up disappearing in 1997. He was legally declared dead in 2002, and Jo started to perpetuate that she may have killed her husband and fed him to the tigers. And there's just a lot of conspiracies surrounding his death. That's a whole separate case. And he was offering $10,000 for information to lead to Carol's arrest. And he went ahead and rebranded his travel show and named it after her sanctuary and gave it a Florida number, so a bunch of people were thinking that she was taking her tigers on traveling shows. So she sued him for trademark infringement and ended up getting $1 million. Well, not really. Jo filed for bankruptcy and she was unable to collect most of it. And then Jo turns around and runs for president in 2016. His little campaign video ended up going viral on YouTube. And when he failed, he ended up running for governor in 2018. Allegedly, his bankruptcy was kind of the motive behind this, so that he could build back up his money and turn people against Carol. And since this doesn't work, this is when he decides that he is going to hire someone to kill her. So Jo really needs help, really needs money for the zoo, and that's whenever he reaches out to Jeff Lowe. Jeff is from Vegas and also involved in this big cat industry. But in reality, he is honestly just a con artist. All the tapes for Joe's reality show that's been filmed is actually located in his alligator enclosure. And this whole enclosure horrifically burned down. Jo ended up blaming animal rights activists and alluded to the fact that Carol was responsible behind it. But the man filming him had said that he had caught some pretty awful things on tape, including Jo just killing animals for the fun of it. So it's theorized that Jo maybe just burnt down this building himself. So Jo ends up giving Jeff his zoo, thinking that he's going to get it back one day, because he claims that he has all this money and he's going to fix it and blah blah blah. And Jeff ends up suggesting to Jo that one of his men, who's a hitman, could kill Carol. They end up going as far as mapping out her bike trail, and they involve this man named Alan Glover who had no intention of killing Carol, and pays him literally just $3,000. Jo ends up getting arrested for this and has his zoo raided. They unearth 5 tiger skeletons on his property, and so he was charged with a murder for hire plot as well as killing 5 tigers in 2017. He was found guilty on 19 charges and was sentenced to 22 years in prison. So Jeff Lowe obviously screwed him over and now has ownership of his zoo, and strikes immunity because they flip on Jo. If you would like to go more into depth and know a little bit more about this feud, Jo vs. Carol is now on Peacock. Kate McKinnon is in it playing Carol Baskin, so I'm definitely going to be streaming it. So the most terrifying thing about the Sallie house is that nobody really knows if it's being haunted by a ghost or a demon. The Sallie house, located in Atchison, Kansas, has a lengthy history of just terrifying owners, and has also been the source of 2 separate BuzzFeed Unsolves. And I really think that we should all go there ourselves. But first, let's get into the backstory. The Sallie house was built between 1867 and 1871. It was built for Michael C. Finney and his family. This included his wife Kate and his 3 kids, James, Agnes, and Charles. And altogether, they lived in the basement while this was being built. But in the year 1872, Michael ended up passing away in the home. And years later, in 1906, his daughter Agnes moved back into the home. She got married to an engineer named William True, and in 1913, he also passed away in the home. Agnes passed away next in 1939. After this, several families moved in and out of the residence, and there wasn't a whole lot of incidents. But this all changed on December 31st of 1992 when the Pickmans moved in. Tony and Deborah Pickman, who were a newlywed couple and expecting their first child, had no idea what. So when Tony and Deborah Pickman were moving into the new house, their dog, who was normally very calm, would start to freak out a lot. And to give a little bit of timeline, about January through June of 1993, they would experience things such as lights flickering, cold spots around the home, landline calls dropped, pretty typical haunting stuff. But this honestly seems just common for a home built in the 1800s. Tony had even joked about there being a ghost. Well, in June of 1993, their baby arrived. And this is when things went from a little spooky to terrifying. Electronic toys would turn on and off, the wind-up mobile above his crib would just randomly go off, and he would wake up almost every hour of the night. Deborah describing it as if someone was wanting to play with him. A neighbor actually ended up coming to them and asking them why they left their nursery light on throughout the night, when in reality their son had just been sleeping in their bedroom, so they weren't even in there turning on the light. Deborah's sister ended up coming into town to help with the baby, and she asked why all the baby's toys were on the floor arranged in a circle with backs facing each. When the Pickmans came up to check in the nursery, they put all the toys back where they came from. They left, turned off the lights, and when they came back to check, they found both the lights on and one of the bears lying flat on his back, just to put the bear back on the chair, and found it on the floor again later. Tony's brother Greg ended up coming over with a camera and asked the spirit if it wanted its picture taken. He snapped a picture of the bear in the nursery, and apparently the bear spun around before their eyes. The grown men were panicked. They were freaked out, ready to leave the house. Deborah was packing up all their stuff while Tony strapped the baby in the carrier. And as he was leaning down to do this, he felt this sharp pain in his back. But because their priority was to get out of there, they didn't look at his back until they got to Tony's parents. Deborah picked up his shirt and he had 3 large scratch marks. So they decided to call psychic Barbara Connor. She came and told the family that the house was being haunted by a girl named Sally. She concluded that she was childish and bratty, but mostly harmless. She'd light candles to show that she was friendly, but she said that Deborah needed to be firm with her. But the reality was far worse. So there was 2 times Sally made herself known. On October 31st of 1993, Tony came home from work on Halloween and turned around to see a little girl standing in his kitchen. She was in church clothes and he realized he could see through her. And he made the connection that this was probably Sally. Previous owners to the house came to the Pickmans and said that their 5-year-old daughter had an imaginary friend named Sally the entire time she was living there. She would be scolded for doing something and she would blame Sally for it, saying that I didn't do that, Sally did, or Sally told me to do that. A photo was made of what Tony had saw and the girl confirmed that that was a Sally from her youth. But the next time Tony saw Sally, it was a horrible nightmare. He woke up to her reaching for him, but he kept finding back and she ended up turning into something that looked more like an animal. It had rotting flesh, worms crawling through it, and it growled at him. Incidences kept happening years after they moved out. Another family moved in and the woman used it for demonic worship, making everything worse. But I'm curious and want to go visit it. My boyfriend and I are on a road trip to the Sally house. Go watch the vlog on my YouTube. Part 3 to the Hustlers case. So in 2008, the financial crisis hit and people were losing businesses, their homes. Wall Street completely crashed and trillions of dollars of wealth were gone overnight. So all this money going into the strip clubs were now disappearing. The girls were desperate and looking for another way to bring in the big bucks. Rosie had met Samantha back in 2007. She was a single mom from the Bronx and she was a recruiter for the club. So she would go out, find men, and bring them back. And you would get a percentage of each dollar that this guy would spend at the club if you were the one that recruited him. While this process is legal, Samantha decided to have some other girls do this along with her, and it progressively got illegal. Rosie would go to very high-end bars, dressed in a blazer, befriend the men, acting like she's just one of them and got off of her job as well. She would keep an eye out for things like Rolexes or Black American Express cards, and sometimes the other girls would join as well. But they ended up drugging them with MDMA and ketamine, which is not at all like a typical roofie. It's way more dangerous. And they would charge up their cards to insanely high amounts. Part 5 to the Hustlers case. So after American Express ends up looking at the receipts and seeing that they're forged, Amex refuses to pay Scores. So Scores then sues Dr. Unin and then he countersues. He states that he's never even been to this strip club. And that's when Scores ends up releasing CCTV footage of him being there, but obviously he was drugged, so he doesn't remember. But the tabloids exploded. They were painting the picture that he just kind of spent too much money being drunk one night. So he went straight to the police, who had actually been aware of the scam for some time. But they needed a solid tip in order to put up a sting. So they end up sending in an agent to pose as a rich guy. And if you go to my Instagram Reels tab, there's a video over there that goes into detail on this sting operation. But ultimately, they were able to get enough evidence off of this to where they could take it to court and actually have the girls arrested. And it wasn't long till the girls started to make plea deals. Rosie was the first one to cooperate and she settled for 5 years of probation. Karina ended up serving 16 weeks at Rikers Island, along with 5 years probation. I want to know what y'all's thoughts are on this case. And go to my Insta if you want to see the extra video. Part 4 to the Hustlers case. So this group of girls were really getting away with it because a lot of these guys had really high-profile jobs or wives at home, so they would wake up the next day with this massive bill. They didn't want people to find out because it was at a strip club, so they would just pay it and move on. And sometimes whenever these guys were out there and the banks would flag it, the girls would actually pick up the phone pretending to be their assistant and confirm that the charges were legit. Samantha ended up setting her eyes on another victim, Dr. Unin, who was a young cardiac surgeon from New Jersey. He was single, never married, and they really thought that he was the perfect target. They set him up on a date with another girl named Karina, who was obviously a part of this scheme, and they went on 3 dates total. The first 2 dates, he would wake up in the morning feeling kind of fuzzy, not really remembering, but he thought that he just overdrank. But by the 3rd date, he actually woke up with a call from American Express, stating that there was $100,000 in charges to his credit card at Robert's Steakhouse, which was a steakhouse at Scores, the strip club. Absolutely pissed, he called Karina and went off, and then he decided to take legal action. This is part 2 to the Hustlers case. So Rosie ended up starting her job at a strip club and was making about $2,000 to $3,000 each night. Thankfully, for one of the first times in media, strippers were being actually shown in high positive regard, so it was inviting a lot more people into the strip clubs. And many of the Wall Street bros, after a hard day's work of scamming people, would come in and spend a lot of money. And at one point, Rosie was making about $10,000 a night from hedge fund managers. Literally because she was making her tuition in one night, she was like, school can be on the back burner. However, because of the type of men that were coming in, they had an overall mistrust for guys. In addition to this, men also ran the clubs. And a lot of the times they were getting really ridiculous working hours. And on top of this, which I did not know, you had to pay just to be able to work at certain clubs. So she was being charged about $300 just to come in and work. Everything was pretty much taxed, so you pretty much had to pay these managers additional money if you wanted them to send good clients your way. As Rosie states in her interview, all the girls collectively snapped. And then this is when the financial crisis of 2008 hit. On June 11th of 2014, 4 women and 1 man were indicted for illegally drugging men and charging thousands of dollars onto their credit cards in New York City strip clubs. Now, I know you guys have seen the movie Hustlers. I am a huge fan of J-Lo, and I really wanted to look in the true story that went behind this movie. One of the really interesting things that I found out is that Samantha Barbash, who was played by J-Lo, actually wasn't a stripper at all. But Samantha Barbash, along with her friend Rosie Keough, ended up hustling over $200,000 from men and targeted doctors, lawyers, bankers, while leading a small ring of exotic dancers and strip club workers in a 4-month scheme. To provide a little bit of backstory, Rosie ended up dropping out of school at 17 to work at a diner. And this is really where she learned originally how to finesse for tips. But she was right next door to a strip club, and managers from the strip club would come in and eat at the diner. Some would even suggest that she should come work for them, offering her a job, and realizing that she I just finished this makeup routine and I noticed that I'm breaking out down here. And I'm gonna be taking photos for you guys for Instagram tomorrow. So this has gotta go. I'm gonna start by taking off my makeup and then I will get right back to you guys. Now we're back with my designer bags. I'm gonna take out my skincare case. The first thing that I'm gonna put on is this Mary Jane Glow Mask. It matches my hair and it smells so good. And it's perfect if you get dry or dull skin over winter. It's gonna brighten you up, hydrate you, and clear your skin. And this mask doesn't even need to be washed off. It just absorbs into your skin. It also has cannabis sativa in it. I'll be back once this is absorbed. Okay, it's absorbed, and how good does my skin look? We're gonna top it off with the Mary Jane Glow Serum. This also has CBD in it, and it's just gonna help hydrate and nourish the skin. I couldn't even stress to you guys how good this smells. So the next part is I'm gonna be adding these heart-shaped acne patches. And I use these to just clear up my skin and heal it without over drying it. So Truly Beauty is launching a bundle right now to the 27th, where you can get all the products that I just showed, and it'll include a travel bag, spoon, and pouch. Go check it out. Hey guys, so I'm in the midst of creating this. Her Instagram is Hey Sophie, by the way. I'm going to be using some of my Maven Beauty products to do the finishing touches for the eyes. And I know this is not exact, this is just inspired, but we're going to go in with this black eyeliner to do this eye. Take it and create a wing. Go above my eye right here as well. I added some dots and I'm going to go in with more eyeliner for right here. Now I'm just adding this lip color in Snatch. I'm going to be adding some of this gold color right here. Now I'm going to be using these fun colors and just kind of going around my eye with it. First we're going to do the purple right here and right here. Now we're going to go in with that beautiful blue. I'm bringing it together with a green. Now putting some red right here. Now moving it outwards with this paintbrush and finishing with a brown eyeliner. My lash glue is black. I'm going to go ahead and put on my mascara and attempt to put in a contact, so I'll be right back. My eye is watering. Now the look is complete. What do you guys think? It's kind of creepy. Remember to follow my Insta below, MinnieCooper_Liz.
Questions for couples.
Ooh, it's gonna start a fight edition.
Duet if you dare.
Starting off easy here.
Who usually gets to pick the TV shows you watch? Getting tougher.
Whose family sucks more?
Who's settled?
But like, when you think about it, who really settled?
When you argue, who makes less sense?
Whose exes are uglier?
Who has more fucked up genes that they could give to kids and ruin them?
But like, let's be real, who stole whose personality?
When you break up, who's gonna have a harder time finding someone?
And who is the freak in the sheets?
Part 2 to my ex videoing me doing the nasty. So even though he forgave me, he still decided to video me like doing the famous call her daddy move. We continued to talk after this, but after a few days, some of the kids in school started to look at me funny. They would act super weird around me, and eventually I just asked someone what happened. And they were like, well, there's a video of you. I wasn't too stressed about it, I just asked him if he would stop showing people. And he said he would, but the video continued to go around. I started to worry once my best friend's cousin told my best friend's mom. That night, my best friend's mom went over to our house to tell my dad. My dad absolutely freaked out, and this is how everything went so downhill. My dad literally wanted to send me away to boarding school, and we ended up getting a call from the police about this issue. Guy ended up getting charged over this video. He was supposed to do community service, but ended up not doing it, so he was just fined. I really didn't want anything like this to happen, and we're now friends today. So I guess everything's okay. If you guys have a story you'd like to share, follow me and DM me on Instagram. Hey guys, so today I'm going to be taking pictures, so we're going to do a little natural glowy look. Okay, so first you guys know the drill with the marshmallow primer. We're going to take our foundation drops and just mix it right on in. Now time to add in some blush. Contour it up and around your face if you want. Now it's time to see if we can shrink the size of our nose down. My vacuum named Hazel is in the process of cleaning. Hazel, nothing has been cleaned in here. Come back. Hazel, come back. She keeps heading into the wall. She's trying her best though. Now I'm going to use this highlighter by Maven Beauty. It should look like this at the end. Making sure my brows are nice and defined. And you guys know I'm a fan of the freckles right now. Now I'm going to sculpt up on my brows just to keep them there in place. Now I'm going to be creating a wing with the Maven Beauty eyeliner. Go straight up like that. And then take it down. Ta-da! Now prime like you mean it. Alright, get you some of this NYX lipstick. Trying to dry them. And we're almost done. So it's done, and this is what it looks like in natural lighting. So this is why you have to be careful of people videoing you doing the nasty. So every year my town holds this event called Movie Under the Stars, where essentially a giant movie is projected onto a screen, but all the kids in my area just go to mess around with each other. So my friends and I decided to show up to this, and there was another group of guys that showed up as well. And one of my friends ended up knowing one of the guys in that group, so we went over to go talk to them. And a guy who was really cute kept making eye contact with me. So I literally didn't shut up about him for the rest of the night. He ended up snapping the girl next to me saying, "Hey, who's the girl in the jeans?" meaning me, so all of us were freaking out and I got a Snapchat. We snapped for a bit and we planned for me to sneak out to go see him that night. So I snuck out of my friend's house, got to his house, and we did a few things, but no big deal. About 2 months go by and we're still talking, but we're also saying I love you. But I ended up being messaged by a popular guy around this time who wanted me to come over to his house. I figured since me and the guy that I was talking to weren't officially together, it'd be fine. So I did, but the guy ended up finding out about it. So I had to go over to his house and basically beg for forgiveness. He said he forgave me, but this is when he came up with the plan to video me, which went south. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Okay, so I am feeling the pink today, per usual. So we're gonna make today just a little bit brighter. I'm gonna be starting out with my marshmallow primer. It smells so good. And we're just gonna go for it. I'm gonna finish up my face so we can get to the fun part. Okay, so my base for this look is gonna be this color right here. And I'm gonna use some tape just to help with that line. I'm gonna drag that down underneath like so. I'll take a hot pink color and just go right on top. I'm putting a holographic pink right in the inner corners. Now I'm using my finger to just pat on the glitter. I've actually never used white liquid liner before, but here we go. Okay, maybe this is not my expertise. It's not the most put together line, but it's a metaphor for my life. Now it's time to go in for the eyeliner. I'm gonna put on a little bit of this gold highlighter on my nose and cheeks, and I'll come back whenever my eyelashes and my brows are done. Okay, so here's the final look, and I actually really like it. I feel like it's not too bad. I definitely need to improve on it though, but let me know what you think in the comments. Does your mental health ever get so bad that you actually break down and buy a corset after watching too many episodes of Bridgerton? Because I recently made this purchase and I am so excited. Also decided to add a hoop and a skirt to it as well. For those of you who have not seen Bridgerton yet, just imagine going to fancy balls and then running through the woods very dramatically in a corset afterwards. And that's genuinely what I feel like doing. So welcome to this strange episode of trying to look like a bad bitch on Instagram without knowing anything about photography or anything about editing. Guess what came in today? She's beautiful. Now all I gotta do is not look like a hard-boiled egg, find some woods, and maybe even find a horse. Step 1 achieved. We are currently trying to put on the corset.
This is so confusing.
Looking for a forest. Found one.
Oh.
Wow, wow, wow.
These pictures low-key kind of look good. Okay, so come over to my Instagram and check out the pictures and let me know what photo shoot you want to see next.
How comfortable are you with your significant other challenge? Put a finger down if you've ever used their toothbrush. Put a finger down if you've ever peed in front of them. Put a finger down if you've ever squeezed a pimple on them. Put a finger down if you've ever pooped in front of them. Put a finger down if you've ever been in the room while they wiped. Put a finger down if you've ever tried to Dutch oven your significant other.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Makeup with Liz. We're going to be trying out this look today, and hopefully it's going to turn out the way we want it. Also, I literally threw out all of my headbands for these ones right here. They are incredibly soft, and I usually get a headache from headbands when I use them. I don't with these. So tape is going to be your best friend for this look, and I'm going to be using a cream-based eyeshadow to get the look started. So we're going to move it outwards like so, and the tape should keep everything in place. Make sure that it is extended out and dramatic. Next thing you need is a matte brown and an angle brush, and you're going to start to outline that shape. And now take it down across your piece of tape. Next, I'm going to go in with this pencil to define my eyebrows. Once you have somewhat of a shape, take your brow gel and sculpt them upwards, like so. Once that is done, just apply your eyeliner. So you should have something like this. Now go in and do your normal foundation routine. I'll be right back. All done. So now we're going to take that same color at the bottom and go underneath our eyes with it. Just like so. Time for mascara. I'm going to just set on some lashes as well. So here is the final look. So let me know what you think in the comments and make sure to check out these really cute headbands.